Welcome back, guys. We're here for part 2 of our island camp series here. You can see we start the video with some b-roll shots and stuff. It's a good way to open up as it leads you into whatever sequential action that you want to do right off the beginning of the video. You'll see a lot of my overnight camps and stuff like this. I often start the morning the same way I would any other time. That coffee's can be a pretty important thing to me. So for this particular trip, I elected to go with the Kelly kettle. In my opinion, it's probably the best water boiler on the market today, and I like the fact that it's biomass. That means I don't have to pack fuels and stuff like that out there. So I mean that's a big plus to me. It's quite damp on the island, that's why you can see it smoking away very heavily there. The Kelly kettle, I believe, was the first biomass stove that I had ever purchased strictly because I wanted it for the water boiling capabilities. I ended up adding to it later because I liked it so much that I got the hobo stove set up, as well as the like pot stand that actually sits in the chimney of the kettle itself. Although that one, I'll be honest, I don't use it very much because it's such an efficient boiler that to cook through the chimney like that, you've got to be extremely careful because you'll literally boil the water out of it before whatever you're done cooking is even close. These filming shots like this can get a little bit long, but at the same time you're out there doing it, and if you're trying to film everything that you're doing, some things, take time. Sitting there putting twigs into a twig burner, I understand, isn't the most entertaining content, but I try to find a balance in between kind of like a realism. Not everything takes 10 seconds when you're out there. In all reality, a lot of it takes a lot longer, It's might not necessarily be the most engaging for the audience, but at the same time, I kind of feel it's important to show at least a rough duration of what things take. That's putting the little hobo stove attachment onto the Kelly kettle now that I've taken the kettle itself off. I got my little Kuksa cup there. I didn't carve that one. That one I actually purchased. But, it was good to drag around with me on these different adventures and stuff like this. Got a couple up here. I don't know if you guys can see them. Like this is one that I carved here. Most of my bushcraft shelters have a Kuksa cup of some form in them as well. Just using instant coffee for this trip. I didn't want to, with all the other plethora of things that I brought out there, I didn't want to be bringing a bunch of coffee grounds and filters and different stuff like that. If I'd brought that style, there would have just been extra equipment that I needed to bring with the instant coffee. I didn't have to. you kind of regret it instantly not bringing real coffee, but I mean, that sometimes, I guess, is the trade-off. You can see I have my moccasins on there. I learned from my 4-day living off the land camp that for me to wear rubber boots for an extended period of time is horrible on my feet. My feet, they sweat bad, and just having wet feet the whole time is no good. And if you do a lot of activity, a lot of walking, stuff like that, your feet can get very sore very quickly. So that's why I brought my moccasins on this trip, was so that if I was around camp, I could change into my moccasins and allow my feet some time to dry out and give my boots some time to dry out. Just gonna slide you guys over here a bit. My son Caleb and I, we spent a lot of time before this trip rigging up our cheap little canoe here for all the filming equipment. So with it, we had 3 different places to attach a GoPro. And so like when I rode out here in film 1, you seen the 3 different angles from the GoPro. I had one on the bow pointing ahead, I had one directly behind me showing behind, like where I left, and then I had the one in the middle that is getting a shot similar to what you see on the screen now, that just kind of showed my person, and that's the one that I used the most probably throughout the trip. We also rigged up like a little monopod spot that I could put on there and put my big camera on there, you know, if I wanted to get some nice side shots of rowing past something or whatever. Like this here will be from the same thing, that'll be from the big camera that's put on there, catching the side shots like that. I wanted to do some fishing here for this trip. That was one of the big things I was excited about for this island camp. I'm not big into fishing, however I do like to do it. Most people who like the wilderness outdoor stuff like to dabble in fishing a little bit, and so do I. So what I chose to take, I didn't want to take my good rod because I was worried that if that thing flipped up, I'd just have a big mess of line everywhere and it'd be a pain in the butt. You can see I got a little sluice shark there. I was actually super excited about that, as that was the first fish I had actually ever caught where I had got it on film. So that was I didn't do a great job filming it, don't get me wrong, but I did get it on film. So I mean, that was a pretty monumental moment for me. You can see just little sluice sharks, so I threw them back in. But getting back to the rod, it's a self-contained rod. I didn't want to have a bunch of tangled line and stuff in my pack or in the boat or anywhere, and it was the first time I done it, so I elected to go with bulletproof gear, I'll call it, and I chose to pick that one simply to avoid any problems I could have. If you know, I'm fighting with all that stuff on top of filming and whatever, it just wouldn't be an enjoyable experience. So after the fishing here, I wanted to go out and explore as much as I could, as I've never done anything out in this location ever, anything water period really. So I skipped on over to a different island. So the big island that I'm on is called Big Island in Chipwick, Alberta. And this little island here is called Heron Island. Now it's pretty close. It's only a stone's throw from the other island. Like if this shot, you can see Big Island is behind my head there, and Heron Island is just here. So it's not very far at all. And this is a massive nesting area for migratory game birds. So I mean, it was kind of neat to run around on the island, take a look at all the different stuff. Lots of bugs, like lots and lots of bugs. I'll tell you one thing: when them little buggers are hatched and growing up, they're not going to be going hungry. I'll tell you that, because they're just insects everywhere. You can just see them swarming, you know. Even when I walk, you can't help. I know it doesn't make good filming, but you can't help just swinging your arms and your hands and stuff around, because they're right in your face. They're driving you crazy. Lots of walking shots and stuff with this, but I mean, when you're walking around and you're exploring things, there's not really much else to see, if that makes sense. I'm not a big fan of strictly doing your walking in first person view like this, like where I'm showing the birch tree and stuff. I just don't find it's good filming to have strictly your first person view. It's I like to do the still camera setup where you walk by and all that kind of stuff. The idea with this island here, so I just show walking around, and if I find key points of interest or things I think are cool or neat to look at or whatever like that, then I will show that specifically to you guys. So this island isn't very big either. Like it's a tiny little island. You can walk from end to end in a couple minutes. Just look at the bugs there. It's absolutely crazy. A little bird, he don't even gotta try. He just holds his beak open and they fly right in there. Lots of back and forth when you're doing this stuff, you know. You put a camera ahead of you, walk back, walk towards the camera, turn the camera around, walk away from the camera. Lots of just shifting things around and stuff to try to keep it interesting. And I should have had the GoPro in on the front there. You can see on the bow the case is empty. There's no GoPro in it. I can't remember specifically. This is over a year ago, this camp, or pretty close to a year ago, and I know I used a lot of batteries on day one, and I might have been rationing out my batteries at this point because it's very overcast, and what I use to charge is a solar setup. So if I don't have the cooperation from the sun to keep that equipment topped up and stuff, then I have to make do the best that I can with what I got, right? So this location, I had chose this largely in part because it was one of the only places that I found that were easily accessed to the water. but not full of thorns and brambles and whatever. This particular location, somebody had even been here before. I think you'll see that in this video where there's some stuff that I had actually found out here from somebody who previously had stayed here. So at this point, I believe we're breaking into some creature comfort construction here. So this is where the bushcraft aspect of the videos comes in. I know I have a hammock, I have a plethora of gear and whatever. It's not a solid bushcraft video, but that is why I call it bushcraft and wild camping. Even when I go out wild camping, I do a lot of bushcraft because you can't just bring everything with you, no matter how hard you try, unless you're doing like car or truck camping, something like that, where weight really is a limitless option. Even with the skidoo or the canoe, sorry, I was able to bring a lot of stuff to this camp, but I just couldn't bring everything. So I wanted to do this specific construction bushcraft project here so that I could gain a little bit of comfort while I was out there. To me, this item is the first thing I will construct. If I don't have one with me, it's always a number one, whether I construct it in this manner or a different one. I don't want to really give away what it is for the people who maybe haven't seen the first video, but I think the comfort you gain out of crafting specific items is so important. I know for me, to help with my lower back and stuff like that, it makes a big difference on how much you can get done in a day if when you sit down to rest, you're comfortable. So the idea of when you're trying to make a steak in this format with an axe is you want to chop straight down with your axe and hold whatever object that you were trying to work on an angle. So you were essentially, your material's on an angle and your axe is going straight up and down to put that that point onto it. The log I'm working with has got quite a bit of bounce there, but beggars can't be choosers. Utilize what's there. Again, for the people that might have missed episode 1 in this opening up series, this is a nature reserve area here, so everything that I did that was bushcraft related was low impact. And by that I mean, like, I did not use any living wood or anything like that. No boughs, no saplings, nothing that would impact the environment in that manner. I did use some material that I had found out on the island, and you'll see that here shortly, as well as paracord. But take note that even when I do use the paracord, and I did leave it there, I did not pack it up and bring it out with me, I did leave it there. See, that bale stick you can see was left by whoever, and right there is a pot lid, and there's also this, a piece of hay wire. And I utilize that in the crafting of this item that I'm making, because it was already left out there. Why not? I mean, it's something that a material that I got basically free. I didn't have to pack it in, I didn't have to use it. But the important thing to take note with all of this is in using these materials for this craft and stuff, even when I use this wire and the paracord and stuff, you'll see throughout this video, I left the camp there because I always had planned to go back to it, and I did for a winter camp this winter, but I did not tie anything or use any paracord or wire or anything like this that I found against living trees. I never tied anything to a living tree. Everything is done completely dead wood. It's so the tree isn't going to grow into it or anything like that. It'll all just be left there as is. The wire actually worked really well for this format here. I was actually surprised that it was as efficient. Like I had planned on using paracord, but I mean, I found this stuff, so I thought, why not use it? So all this kind of stuff can be fairly monotonous. You know, cutting wood, whether it's firewood or for a bushcraft project or whatever, axe use, knife use, stuff like that. It's all fundamentally this, you know, same thing. When you've seen one, you almost seen them all. I mean, you can see guys do different techniques and different whatever, but it is very much the same when you're out there and you're doing it. And I think it's important to be creative and try to change up your camera angles and showcase just different ways to do this stuff, or different angles of it at least, because it provides a tiny bit of entertainment to an otherwise very boring aspect of the trip. So you can see the Kelly kettle still going there. At this point, the punky wood that was in there has dried out, you know, to the point that it's burning clear. But the whole idea of that was a little smudge to keep the insects away, the mosquitoes and stuff, while I was in camp. So this again is one way that you can use your axe to split these logs like this. If you're looking to get building material where you have two halves of the log to work with, as opposed to just using the straight round log. Should always try to use that natural check in the tree where it's already tried to naturally split. Again, we talked in episode 1 about how I was splitting the wood. This is another method that you can use. Like, I'm down on my knees here, and the reason for that is if that axe, I've only got one hand on the axe, the other hand is on the material. So if that axe were to glance off that log in some capacity or whatever as I'm standing up, I wouldn't have as much control over the axe as I would like. But by being on my knees like this, if I do lose control of the axe and the head goes off the piece of material that it's intended to be on, it will never ever hit me. It will always find its way to the ground, dig into the dirt, hit the big working log in front of me, something like that before it ever gets to me. You can see I was picking up all them different bits of wood that come off while I was splitting these. That is 100% intentional. That's one thing that I really like, you know, about crafting things and stuff like that, is you literally, if you want, you can have no waste. Even all those chips and chunks and stuff like that that will not help me for the building project, they are great for the next time I go to light a fire or I go to use the Kelly kettle. All them little pieces I will repurpose in that capacity for when I go to light or use the next fire. And it is also beneficial in the fact that it keeps your camp clean. It doesn't look like a whirlwind went through there and there's stuff everywhere. So this should really be starting to take shape now for those of you who didn't watch the film when it was originally released. The craft that I'm going for here is a chair, and I find, you know, a chair to be one of the most underrated things that you could possibly have or craft or make or obtain while you're out there, because it just goes such a long ways for making you feel comfortable and for the back support and stuff like that. And you spend a lot of time in a chair, a lot more time than YouTube videos let on. I mean, even when you take a little break, you want to go sit in that chair and get that back support. For most of us, after the filming is done for the day and stuff, you still spend a duration of time just sitting around the fire and enjoying yourself, relaxing, and it goes a long ways. It's absolutely incredible what a chair does. Like I said earlier, if I don't have one, it is one of the first things that I craft. You can't even compare it to just sitting on a log or something similar like that. Without that back support, that's what makes all the difference. With all things that I craft, you can see I'm not big on having everything all perfectly flush and looking pristine or anything like that. Like, to me, that's not bushcraft. Like, bushcraft is making it work. There are certain aspects of the craft that you want to be very meticulous and put a lot of time into and have it perfect. You know what I mean? But a chair isn't one of them. It's You know, you see a lot of YouTube videos, even when somebody makes a shelter, the logs are all perfectly flush across the top, and everything's all pretty and looks neat, and you know, this is done because it's appealing to the eye. It gets people's attention. If you get people's attention, you get more views, stuff like that. But when you're out there and you're doing it, there's no reason at all for it to be absolutely perfect and cosmetically appealing. It suits no purpose, whether it's cosmetically appealing or not. So at the back of the chair, you can see it goes like a little triangle design. That's so each log, when you lean back on it, they work together, that it digs the backside into the ground and gives you good back support, but at the same time, it's a little springy. It's not rigid like, you know, leaning against a tree. It's got some movement there. And I personally like that it's got a bit of give. It feels a lot more comfortable. So I put a quick release knot on that because at this point in time, I still hadn't decided whether I was going to demolish the camp when I left or leave it up. Ultimately, I did decide to leave the camp up, and so you can see the spring there when I lean back against it, but man, it makes a world of difference. I did decide to leave the camp up so that it was there for future times that I went to use it. I had decided that it was little impact on the environment, so I was comfortable in doing that. The squirrels loved it, I'll tell you that. They use that for their personal smorgasbord since I left. I think when I went back there in the winter, the shells from the spruce cones and stuff were everywhere. So this is a chunk of horseshoe fungus I got going in there. That stuff, once it starts to burn, it will smolder away forever and then some. So it's one of my favorite materials to use when I'm making a little smudge like this, just to waft the smoke around and keep the mosquitoes chased out of there. It's an excellent bit of material you can find out in your environment that suits your needs for a long period of time, so you're not always sitting there, you know, adding more and more and more things to your smudge all the time as they heat up and they combust. Back to the daily grind. That Go Flow water gravity bag there, that holds 10 liters of water, and I had to fill that up daily. So I mean, that was just part of your normal chores. You do utilize a lot of water when you're out there. It is so nice to have it right in camp, like with that bag like that you don't have to go down to the lake every single time. Even though the lake is close, it still makes a difference for sure. So when you go to the same spot over and over like this, like my boat is parked in the same spot, so if I'm going out, I'm going to do something, it gets, as time progresses and goes on, and the more times you go out there, you don't want to film the same angle every single time that you do it. So you're being very creative and trying to capture different angles to make it look different, to keep it interesting, and it's it can be tricky at times. When I'm in the boat like this, I mean, sometimes I don't have the luxury of being so creative. I've only got so many fixed points on the canoe that I can attach filming equipment to. So unfortunately, you get to see me like this almost every time I get in the canoe, because it's there's only so many places that I can have things set up in order to film like this. This really was a beautiful campsite. I mean, this was, I was so lucky to find this beautiful little dry spot on that island. Was actually very wet, and it was just like a little slice of heaven out there where I had my tiny little mound, that was a little bit higher, and it's clean. It's free of the brambles and the thorns and all the undergrowth, and it was just absolutely amazing to find that little oasis out there. So shots like this are me attempting to try to get the point across on what the particular equipment might be, that if somebody was watching this silent style video and they're like, oh, that's super cool, I wish I knew what that was. So, specific items I think people might be interested in, I will do the close-up that, shows the brand name and whatever, so people can research it further from there. It's amazing, these videos, when I go back and I watch them like this, that I really don't get up to much during the day, you know what I mean? Like this, so this video, if we go through it, step by step, got up and had some coffee, put the life jacket on, hit the water, did a bit of fishing, and went and explored that island, Heron Island. Then we come back and we crafted a chair here so we could be a little bit more comfortable for our time in camp. And now we're already on to the cooking. So that's only really 5 things that were accomplished this day. And it took all day to film and do that. What you see on the camera, it's what you get. But the part that you don't see on camera is when this video is released, it might be 40-45 minutes long, but I'm sifting through probably, I don't know, for a 40-45 minute video, sometimes you can have 3 hours of footage, between 3 and 4 hours of raw footage that you are honestly, you're picking through, because nobody's going to sit there and they're going to watch a video for 2 hours, and if we're being honest, it would be probably quite boring, because a lot of your footage is very repetitive or very open or whatever like that, which isn't necessarily the most entertaining thing. So lots of work to make a video, lots of editing, looking through, sifting through film, trying to pick out what you think would interest people. Just for a little bit of more info here, so this is venison steak that we had harvested during hunting season, and when we harvest something, we process it, cut it, we do everything all ourselves. So that's what you'll often see me take on my camps and stuff, whether it is you know, deer meat, elk, moose, stuff like that. It's all harvested by us. I'm not the best woods cooker, that's for sure. I had tagged Ariel some time back to do an outdoor cooking episode there where she could teach me how to cook when I'm out in the woods, but if she ever did make that video, I unfortunately didn't see it. But we had some big life changes there. We changed where we live. We bought this tiny little house in the woods, and we've been working on it almost constantly. My parents have been here, oh man, all last summer. My dad was here helping me work on stuff almost every day. He was out here. You know, I can't say enough about the help that he offered and stuff like this. But when that happened, the other thing that also happened is that you know, internet is less than reliable, and that's greatly affected our YouTube, and not just in us creating and uploading content, but also in watching other people's content. Is it just doesn't play. That's that simple. I mean, it so that was kind of a big blow. There was lots of channels I like to keep up with that now we just don't have the ability to watch because it just isn't possible with our internet. I tried to upload one 40-minute video, and I think it took 2 days. So I mean, that was after that, then we would go to my mother and father-in-law's. My wife would go and visit them, and she would upload my videos at their place for me. So that was awesome. But now they've moved out here too. So I mean, now their internet is the same as ours, and that's not an option anymore. Man, that chair makes a big difference. Just brings a smile to my face when I look, and I remember, you know, how much it's just a relief when you get to sit back and lean against something. It makes a big difference. I elected to use the hobo stove on the Kelly kettle a lot for this trip. Mostly because I had brought it, so I figured if I brought it, I should really show that piece of equipment, if that makes sense. You guys have seen me too many times, way too many times, just cooking on a campfire, you know, that I decided I'll make a big effort to try to show this kind of equipment so that it's not the same thing over and over and over. I ate so good on this trip. I usually don't eat like this in the woods. Like, I mean, every meal was a big meal, you know. It was absolutely fantastic. It also did kill my ambition. Oh, well, I'll be 100% honest. It killed my ambition every night when, you know, you eat a big meal like that, you're just done. You just kind of sprawl out and let time pass by. You see, this, it kind of, one thing I should point out here, that people maybe don't appreciate when you watch somebody else's YouTube video. Uh, you look at something like this, so this is sitting down for your meal at the end of a day after all you've been through and all you've done, and you're still getting up and moving that piece of camera equipment all around to try to get different angles and stuff to make it interesting for the other person that's watching. I mean, there's a lot of effort that these guys put into to making these videos and stuff, and I don't think that can be something that's understated, really. See, even with these shots that you try to do sequential like this, so you end one shot that you sit down, so you sit down, whatever. So now when you get up and then you go to do something again, you got to get your camera, go move it, set it up in a different location, go back to where you were, sit down, just to get up again to make it look. Sorry folks, I really thought I had enough battery length there to round out this video, but I suppose I was wrong. So we'll just continue this long here. We're basically right at the end of the video now. So, you know, we just do our little sunset shots, and I will, you know, freeze it on that. But I was saying before the camera cut off that when you do this sequential filming, that even takes a lot more out of it too, because whatever you ended that scene with, you try to pick up from that location. With the exception, like sometimes you're just like, I don't know where to go from here, so you chuck in some B-roll stuff, and then it's kind of like a fresh start. You can go wherever you want, but a lot of effort goes into it, you know. I think I appreciate that in people's YouTube videos now a lot more than I used to before. It used to all be about skill and not necessarily about the filming and stuff involved. But the more you get into it, the more you do appreciate that kind of stuff. But thank you guys for watching episode 2 of our island series here. And I hope you enjoy this new series that we made opening up. I'm really excited about this. I like going through the videos and talking with them to you guys about what I did, why I did it, stuff like that. I mean, there's some episodes aren't so heavy into why I did stuff. It's pretty self-explanatory, where others, there are very key things that I want to point out, whether they be safety or an easier way to do it, or why I chose to make a chair as opposed to something else, things like that. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you in part 3.
Sorry about that, guys. The day kind of got away from me there a little bit, so I lost track of time. I went out fishing, later at night and stuff there, and by the time I did that, most of the day was gone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Uh, lots happened again today. We went and explored one of the sister islands out here, a little tiny island, and not nearly as much brambles and thorns and whatnot out there, but the bugs were just as bad for sure. Plenty of bird nesting going on over there. Uh, that was kind of cool. I like to explore and take a look at different things there, so I found that pretty cool. Like doing that. Tomorrow, I think I'd like to explore this island a lot better, as I haven't really gone anywhere. Mostly because the brambles are so bloody thick here. It is just seriously one big thorn bush after another. It is very hard to push through. But I think tomorrow we're going to go do that. We're going to take a look at what else this island has to offer. There's even supposed to be another lake on this island. So I'm going to go take a look, maybe see if I can find that. What else did we do today? Did some fishing. We caught a little slew shark there, but at least we caught something, right? I kicked that one back because he was just a little guy. There's plenty of fish in a lake. There's no need to take the tiny. You can't see me. There's no need to take the tiny little guys. Um, yeah, did a little bit of bushcraft stuff. Built a chair and stuff there. As you get older, comfort becomes a pretty important thing, so I threw that together. Like anything I do bushcraft, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just needs to work. So yeah, we built the chair, got that done, made some supper there, and that was pretty well the video for today. Spent a lot of time doing a lot of the B-roll stuff today too, getting the extra shots there that are required between scenes and whatnot. So I spent a long time doing that. Doesn't really, well, it does add to the video, but it adds to the series basically. You got to do your B-roll videos and stuff too to kind of piece everything together. So spent a lot of time doing that stuff, and with the fishing and exploring the island, making some supper, that was it. But oh, there's two things I forgot to mention. Well, one thing I forgot to mention yesterday, and that is to go along with Cameron's Bushcraft Treehouse. I hope you guys enjoy the intros to them. The music is being played by my other son, Caleb, on his bass guitar. So he's providing the music for the channel from now on. So that's pretty cool too, right? I wanted to mention that for anybody who is wondering where that's coming from. It's coming from Caleb. He's throwing together all the music for that. And for this episode, due to the fact that this is a silent uh, series, except for me rambling on at the end of the video, but the guys who like the silent stuff, they can cut out and they can leave before I start rambling. For those of them that decide to stick around for the rambling at least this far, be sure to check out Country Bow Wow. He does strictly silent films, so if you like my silent kind of format that I got going on with some of these camps, be sure to check him out. He does some awesome stuff. It's all, wilderness, bushcraft, survival based. Awesome stuff, awesome content. I love every video I watch from him, and he's only getting better and better. I will put his link down in the description for you guys to check him out. Awesome channel. Make sure you do that. You won't regret it. I can guarantee you, especially if you like the silent style format, you're gonna absolutely love it. But that's it for me tonight, guys. I'm bagged and I'm heading to bed. So I'll see you in the next episode. Keep outdoors.